Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Blake Stevens. More protests around the country and here in East Tennessee after the death of George Floyd at the hands of police in Minneapolis. Along with the calls for justice, a growing refrain to defund police. Coming from people who want major and lasting changes in the criminal justice system. Of course, this isn't the first time we've heard outrage on the topic. The shooting death of Philly Feet by a Knoxville police officer, later ruled to be justified, prompted calls for police body cameras. Among the voices calling for change then and now, activist Constance Every. Wednesday, I sat down with Every to talk about police and race right here in our city. Before you were fighting against injustice and fighting for change, you actually fought for our country, right?
Correct.
You fought for our freedom. Will you talk to me about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I was a member of the United States Army. I was a exo specialist, combat light wheel engineer, and mechanical engineer. So that falls under what is known as the job description of 63 X-ray. For those who are military may know what I'm talking about, my MOS. And I served 15 years in the military and did some tours into Afghanistan. And so yes, it's good to be home and good to be out of there.
So will you talk to me about that dynamic, being a woman of color, fighting for multiple causes and having that military experience? What's that dynamic like?
Well, I think I give credit to my military background for my capabilities of being able to be diversified and dynamic in multiple spaces of the injustice struggle, because that was the catch of the military, right? You have a job description, MOS, but you're not guaranteed to always do just that job or just that MOS duty. The rule number one of the military is you're a soldier first. So that's the first skill set they teach you off the bat, which is how to be combative and survive in combative situations. You go to your training school actually after you complete basic training, where you're getting those first set of real militant skill sets established into your membrane and your muscle memory. And so I take that multi-diversifiable type of concept that I've already been trained and taught for 15 years with the military and been able to directly apply it to my work in the activist and social justice work that I do today.
So I want to talk about George Floyd. Yesterday he was laid to rest. Did you watch, and what was that like for you?
I didn't actually watch the actual funeral itself. I did see some of the news clips and some of the YouTube videos and some of that type of information put out on social media and platforms. And of course, as always, the anger, frustration, and rage immediately builds up in your chest and, in your heart. I just recently had a friend that was recently killed here locally, and so that was kind of like a rollover emotions for me. It's like, we're already dealing with the police killing us in our communities, and then we are killing ourselves in our communities. And so it's like, how do we break this all-around cycle of black genocide, not just at the police hands, but at our own community hands? And so as an activist, it was a very stressful, emotional, and frustrating day to just see George Floyd laid to rest and realizing what I realized about my friend life, which is that these are both senseless crimes unnecessarily done and taken. And really on both sides of the fence, there is a way to hold people accountable. The question is, for those of us who are the taxpayers and the voting citizens and the community members and the churchgoers and et cetera, how are we going to come together who are being victimized and affected by this behavior? How are we going to better unite as one and as a total front, telling both sides of the fence this is not allowed nor appreciated in our communities? And we're sick of just watching black men die of senseless deaths at people for senseless reasons at their hands. And so to me, it's a combination of a harsh and ugly truth reality, but at the same time a way of uniting and creating a solution and finally finding a resolve to this very common problem.
Solutions and resolve. So you told us weeks ago you were planning to meet with several elected leaders.
Correct.
I'm curious to know, how many of those conversations have you had and how are they going?
So we met with Chief Thomas twice and Indy Kincannon once so far. I'm very pleased to report that Chief Thomas is very on board with some of the very basic demands. Like we said, the body camera situation, that is a go. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That is going to happen. We spoke about the mental health professionals and the drug intervention professionals being added. Chief Thomas, at first, I will admit, was a little bit curious into what that capacity, what that conversation was about. But I think that myself and my team that we went that met with her. We were very well delivering the understanding concept of how we are overworking our officers and asking them to cross over into spaces that are really just outside of their realm and scope of their work profession, and that by adding these supportive services or these supportive professionals would, one, take pressure and work off our police department, and two, allow the staff and the professionals to intervene in spaces where they are the professionals, so that we don't have crises like what we had happen with the young lady in South Knoxville who suffered a gunshot wound from a police officer, but it was very clear she was having signs of mental health. And so those are the type of spaces that we were expressing to Chief Thomas, and she seemed to get on board and fully understand that. And she has even done her own research into figuring out places where police departments have partnership with the supportive services and what that looks like. And we even suggested to her to look at the Portland, Oregon model, where we currently are seeing that in effect in our country, and how well that model has been working for them with the mobile crisis support with their police department, and how that has also done the same thing, taking that pressure off officers and allow those professionals to step in those spaces.
Mayor Kincannon announced that there would be a review of Knoxville Police Department's use of force policy. She also announced that she was taking part in My Brother's Keeper pledge. Are these changes that you advocated for, that you wanted to see?
No, they're not. The changes I advocated for were the body cameras, the mental health and the drug intervention professionals, and then the empowerment of the PART, which is the Police Oversight Review Committee. That's the things that we've asked for. And like I said before, Chief Thomas is very open to this capacity of the conversation and really developing a plan and even an implementation of plan, whereas India has been very resentful and very combative even to the process of putting these basic and very simple demands into effect. She's actually on record with my team flat out stating that she was not willing to support having mental health or supportive staff additionally brought onto the police force. It's very disturbing to hear a mayor who claims to be progressive, who campaigned a progressive platform, who claims she cares about black lives. I mean, we saw her do the run for Ahmaud Arbery. We've seen what she said about Black Lives Matter and racism is not tolerated. Yet here is black leadership asking for some very simple demands to ensure our comfort and safety of those commitments, and yet you have rejected and been resistant to those spaces. I think if you got to see the Renaissance show last night, I think several of the black leaderships brought this up numerous times about the plans and implications of trying to improve the police department and the face of racism in our own culture of our police department. And India Kincannon seemed very passive and almost as if not informed or even communicative to the space. I don't want to hear a mayor keep saying she'll consider or think about this when it's nothing to think about or to consider. The actions have been laid out, the agenda and plan has been given, and all it is a simple implementation and a matter of how we're going to do that.
So the mayor, the review of the use of force policy, is that not a positive or a win in your view?
I feel like it's not a positive because, again, we need body cameras. You can't talk about use of force of policy if you have no way to eyeball or monitor that policy. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can tell you right now, you know, you're not allowed to use chokeholds or anything else in your altercations or encounters with people when you have to restrain them. Okay, but here's the catch. I don't have a body camera on you. So even though I said don't do that, when you roll out the gate, you're still free to use that chokehold because guess what? I have no way to track if you are or are not.
You are pleased with the city's funding of body cameras and seeing that carried out.
Correct, but I think they need to go cahoots. You need to have a force of action plus the body camera, so that way it's understood if you get caught on camera doing these actions, then it's understood you are in violation of the force of policy at the same time. So to me, it's like it's a minor step in the right direction. The body cameras plus that is a major step in the right direction.
And I want to make sure I summarize this next question fully. In Minneapolis, city leaders have 9 out of 12 city leaders there say they aim to defund and dismantle their police departments. They say that they plan to recreate systems that, quote, actually keep us safe.
Correct.
Do you support their effort, and do you support a similar idea on a local level?
Yes, I would like to take a time and pause on defund. You know, I think people are getting really caught up on the word defund and not what that really means. Defunding the police doesn't mean we're getting ready to just bankrupt the whole department and get everybody out the front door. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that, for example, like Knoxville, we spent $60 million on our police force, but then in social services and resources, we spent like $3 million. There is a problem here, and that's what we mean when we say defund the police. There's no need for our police department to have $60 million and $3 million going only to the social service resources. We're saying flip the scale. Give the police the $3 million and give the $60 million to the social resources, services, and support, because it's been proven time and time again in areas where they have a lower funding in their police department and more funding in social services and resources, their crime rates are lower. It's just flat out proven. And why is that? Well, because again, what drives crime? Poverty. And so when you are giving people accessibility to services, resources, affordable housing, food, job opportunities, development, etc., you find people do what? They focus in spaces where they can grow versus where they have to survive. And so what we're seeing in areas where they're funding into social services, people are getting the necessary resources and accessibility, everybody's getting the fair shot opportunity, and therefore people focus more in the capacity of how I can be better and do better versus how am I going to thrive and survive today, and that means I may have to go out and rob or take from someone, which is not really what I want to do, but I'm kind of forced to do because I'm lacking those necessary services being provided by my city or my local government.
Where does your mission go from here? Where does the movement go?
So again, most recently, I know that Councilwoman Parker gave out, it's not what we call our 8 Can Wait. I know some people are trying to title it like that. It's not necessarily our defund the police. It's not that either. The recent most recommendations that came out actually came from PAC, which is a Police Advisory Council that was put together by the wonderful Miss Elizabeth Rowland, who's running for state representative right now. And what those directions were in addition to body cameras, in addition to mental health resources, in addition to empowerment part, it's kind of like a breakdown what that looks like, including some concepts of defunding the police, like we just talked about, $3 million unmarked cars. Well, that's what we're saying. Instead of giving $3 million to unmarked police cars, put that $3 million back into social services and social resources. Like, we're finding spaces in our police budget where we are unnecessarily spending money, and we're telling our mayor and our police chief to redirect that funding in more resourceful spaces for the community. And so that's been kind of our second piece of legislation that we have as leadership and as a whole came out and said we support and we want to see this implemented as well. As far as I'm concerned, Indy Kincannon has much work to do, and I'm hoping that she keeps her mind open and knows that she's going to have to communicate with her fellow leadership and community leaders to get this resolved and worked over. It's not just going to come straight from the local government or the state or even federal government. It is going to require a relationship with the community and the government coming together as one and doing what's in the best interest of us all. And my thing is that until Indy Kincannon either understands that or shows signs of that, it doesn't matter what we say or do. Until she gets on board, this will continue to be a problem for our community.
We heard Every mention the Renaissance Knoxville virtual town hall. During that event, Mayor Kincannon said she's open to creative solutions, including more investment in mental health and social services.
I am very open to reimagining how we define public safety and considering these ideas, especially ones that have already been tried and tested in places like Portland, with mental health professionals, expanding how we do the BHUT, the Behavioral Urgent Care Unit. I am open to those ideas and want to work with you to figure out how exactly we fund them.
And Mayor Kincannon committed to body cameras at the start of this year. The target date was supposed to be July 1st. Now the mayor says those could be rolled out as soon as this fall, as City Council already approved their funding. A city spokesperson says the mayor supports and the city funds jail diversion programs and social workers alongside police officers. Mayor Kincannon also says she's committed to strengthening the Police Advisory Review Committee, or PARC. Well, still to come, leaders debate the future of the controversial bust at the state capitol. You're watching Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side.
Hello, I'm Mike Hatmaker. Ready for some summertime fun? This is it. 2018 Jaguar XE Sport Edition, loaded out, sale price $29,888. So hurry in now to Jim Carr Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
911, what's your emergency?
If you've been involved in a wreck with a commercial vehicle, these cases are complex and involve detailed federal regulations. You need an experienced law firm with the resources to fight and a track record of success in handling these types of cases.
Call Wettermark Keith, the name to know and trust.
Hello, I'm Mike Hatmaker with Jim Carr Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Want some summertime fun? This is it. 2012 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited 4-door, sale price $19,888. That's right, $19,888. So hurry in now to Jim Carr Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
But I mean, I'm here with all my friends now, so like it's really fun and exciting to see everyone again.
It gives me a lot of closure just to say that I finished that chapter of my life and I get to start a new one.
They're here to support everybody in their community, and that's the brotherhood that they've built together.
Whether it's Knox County or not, any child 18 or under can come get a meal.
Most of the people we deliver to are elderly, and some of them have underlying conditions, so we're trying to use extreme care.
The bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest will stay at the state capitol for now. The final vote was 11-5 in committee. Knoxville Democrat Rick Staples, who wrote the removal bill, making a passionate plea to fellow lawmakers.
People out there know how somebody black feel about this. The ones that'll be heroes, the ones that'll be brave, are you men and women that are standing right here, because you're the ones that if you support this, vote yes out here, you're the ones that's going to have to catch hell. But sometimes you got to catch a little hell to do right.
Also this week, we heard from Governor Lee.
I have said this, though, something should be done. That particular individual and his role in history is particularly painful to African Americans in this state. And for that reason, I think there should be a strong consideration and strong dialogue around what happens to that bust.
And a bill to end the requirement that the governor has to declare Nathan Bedford Forrest Day moved forward. Well, still to come, our panel of pundits. They're next. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.
Hello, my cat maker. Want some summertime fun? This is it. 2019 Dodge Caravan SXT, power doors, power gates, all the equipment. Sale price $18,888. So hurry in now to Jim Carr Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
It's Mattress Month at Rooms to Go. Time to save. Time to improve the way you sleep. Just choose your perfect mattress set from our big selection of top brands and switch your foundation to this adjustable base for free. King or queen size. And check out our amazing selection of mattress buys throughout the store. Save on Sealy, Serta, Beauty Rest, Therapeutic, and more. There's something for everyone. So find your perfect mattress now during Mattress Month at Rooms to Go.
Wamplers, it's great sausage made on the farm in Tennessee.
Spice up your Taco Tuesday with Wamplers Taco Meat. All natural, fully seasoned, ready to cook and serve. Mild, hot, even chorizo. It's a quick and easy meal the entire family can enjoy. Try our Taco Meat today. From sun up to sundown, Wamplers has something for every meal. Don't say sausage, just say Wamplers.
Make that sausage always Wamplers. It's the best in quality.
Hello, my cat maker. Want some summertime fun? This is it. 2020 Honda Civic SI turbocharged, only 4,000 miles. Sale price $24,888. So hurry in now to Jim Carr Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
All right, so we've got our political analyst George Porter with us. We've got the chairwoman of the Knox County Democratic Party, LaKenya Middlebrook, and our healthcare expert Craig Griffith. So my first question to you all, going back to my conversation with Constance. With all the unrest going on around the country, are leaders locally taking the steps they should be taking right now? George?
Well, it's hard to know exactly what the right steps are in a lot of cases. The farther away people are from actual knowledge, responsibility, or experience, the more certain they can be of their opinions. And to the degree there is unrest, the question becomes, is the unrest justified? And if the unrest is justified, then what do you do to change things? Now, with respect to Mayor Kincannon and her actions to say we're going to review police use of force policies, that's probably a good thing. But at the same time, there are police officers out there who know that some of those use of force tactics are used to help protect them from people who are trying to do them harm. And police generally are like everybody else. They don't like to be thought of or considered to be or tagged as racists if it's not justified, and it's not justified in every case. I mean, police officers have a very, very difficult job. But at the same time, we as a society invest incredible authority in them. They have the potential at any given time to be judge, jury, and executioner. So that how we deal with that as a society, we've got to figure out a way to do it and satisfy people, but not gut the whole system so as 5 or 10 years from now, we're out there going, holy cow, there's a crime wave in the country. What do we got to do? We gotta get tougher with our policing.
LaKenya, what are your thoughts? Are we taking the right steps?
You know, I think there are a lot of things that can be done. The Knox County Democratic Party Progressive Action Committee actually shared some recommendations that they have been working on, that we have been working on since 2017, researching policies and procedures and practices all across the country, looking into how policing happens here in our communities and making recommendations, sweeping recommendations around what policing may look like in our communities. I think it's important to review use of force policies, but I also think it's important to consider culture and the tone that we set within our departments. I think it's also important for us to continue to have the conversation around how communities can be better engaged in how they are policed and what public safety looks like in those communities, because the reality is for too many of our communities, and I can speak from personal experience from the community that I come from, too many of our communities, it's more so of an occupation, right, than a public safety tool. And so thinking about what policing looks like, what we need police to do in our communities, what we expect police to do, because the reality is in a lot of situations, we're asking police to do too much, right? And so we're spending a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of resources, asking people to do more than their skill set allows them to do. And so if we can concentrate resources in other places that allow us to support the needs of the community, then that frees up the police to do the things that they are actually equipped to do. And I also think that it's important, like I said, it goes back to setting a tone and setting a culture. One of the things that we talk about in our recommendations is bias training, right? Because folks don't like to be called racist. Nobody likes to be called something like that, but some folks are. And even if they are not, a lot of times the systems that we have in place have racist backgrounds and have bias built into those systems. And so we have to think about how we are engaging folks who are providing services in our community to make sure that they are doing so in a way that is equitable to the people that they serve.
And LaKenya, part of those recommendations include additional mental health staff, more support services. Craig, I want to field this next question to you. Do you see investment in those areas as a way to improve the relationship between police and the community and maybe cut down on the jail population?
I think that's very appropriate. We're asking police officers now to be society's referees, and that's outside of their preview of what they should be doing. There should be elements in any response that has mental health and things like that to take down the escalations of the confrontations between the police and the public. This reminds me quite a bit of 1998 when several African Americans were killed in contact with the Knoxville Police Department. The most memorable one of those was a gentleman by the name of Andrew Stinson. Many of the claims that people are asking for now, they asked for then. And the city administration set up a blue ribbon task force, the Bernstein Commission. And out of that commission came many of the recommendations that people are asking for today. The Police Review Committee, which is called PARC, Police Advisory Review Committee, was a action that came out of that commission. And it was also wanting to have more mental health intervention in the community, which led to the development of a mobile mental health crisis unit. That unit now, today, is hopelessly overloaded and needs to be expanded and better staffed and better funded. So these are all the things that people can do to move forward in the community policing concepts.
The next thing I'd like to ask you all about is the bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest. When Representative Staples made his plea to that committee, he argued that by voting against removing it, they would be on the wrong side of history. It failed 11-5, as you know. So my question to you all, for those no votes, are they on the wrong side of history? LaKenya, I'll start with you.
Well, I have very specific views that I have not shied away from making known regarding busts and monuments such as these. My background is in history. That's what my degree is in. My first degree is in history, and I was fortunate enough to grow up surrounded by history. You know, in a household with someone who was very active in the civil rights movement and growing up around folks who were critical to that movement. And I think that it's very, very, very important for us to, number one, be, and especially considering the unrest that we're seeing in our communities right now, to be honest about our history and mindful about our history, but also be thoughtful about what we are honoring, right? Because we cannot say that we believe in equality, that we believe in justice, that we believe in inclusion for all, that we are a welcoming community, if the heroes that we choose to hold out and honor, because if we're honest, that bus sits in a place of honor. It's not about a historical reference. It's not a museum. It is a place of honor where we place Tennesseans that we value. And so if we are saying that the people that we honor in our state's capital, where the state's business happens, is someone whose background, the only reason, and there may be things about Nathan Bedford Forrest that I don't know that someone can educate me on that would warrant his honor, but the only things that I know about him is that he was a Confederate general who fought desperately to be able to maintain his hold on slaves and people who looked like me that he held as his property, and that he was one of the founding members of the Ku Klux Klan, which is one of the most notorious domestic terrorist organizations in our country. And if that's who we're holding up as who we honor, then we cannot continue to say that we are a welcoming community to all people, because it's just not true.
George? We are making a desperate error in how Nathan Bedford Forrest is being addressed and approached. And perhaps because I did a column on this when the city of Memphis went in the dead of night and took down his statue. I did a column, one of my knoxnews.com columns, on this very thing. Nathan Bedford Forrest, a few years after yes, he founded the Ku Klux Klan. He was one of the founding members of the Ku Klux Klan. And within a year of its creation, he issued General Order Number 1, which called for the destruction of all Klan memorabilia, all Klan symbols, shields, sheets, whatever. Because Nathan Bedford Forrest saw this was not turning into what he had anticipated becoming. And a few years later, he was invited by a Black organization called the Order of the Pole Bearers. And there's a record of the speech that he gave. And he got up in front of these people who invited him to come and speak. And he said, now, when I was a general, and I'm paraphrasing here, I didn't shirk my duty. But I can tell you this, we all live under one flag. Why can't we live as brothers? And if anybody comes after you, I will be there to help you. What we're doing with Nathan Bedford Forrest is we're focusing on exactly the wrong thing.
Hey, really quickly.
The wrong thing heavily impacted. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm just out of time. I'm just out of time. I hate to do that to you, Craig.
Nathan Bedford has the blood of 300 people on his hands that he has to wipe away.
I'm going to leave that there. I thank you.